During the events of the Long Frontier War between the Interstellar Manufacturing Corporation and the Frontier Militia, the IMC would use their influence and their resources to hire a variety of different mercenary groups to do their dirty work and fight for the IMC's control within the Frontier and the Core Worlds. One group of individuals known as the Apex Predators were hired after their combat effectiveness was proven time and time again. Known as some of the best pilots within the whole of the human military forces, the Predators would stop at nothing to get the job done, using their pure brutal strength to obliterate their enemies. Their insignia is on display in every battle, with the words, "I kill you, I'm better," ringing out to all their enemies. If you were to find yourself face to face against an Apex Predator, the chances of your survival were extremely slim. But who are the Apex Predators? When did they first come about? And what does their future look like now that the Frontier War is over and the IMC is defeated? Well, today we look at the brutal lore behind one of the most deadly forces throughout the systems. This is the lore behind the terrifying Apex Predators of Titanfall. Despite the war between the IMC and the Frontier Militia having been reported as going on for hundreds of years, the Apex Predators are in fact one of the youngest factions within the war. Despite having familiar faces within key battles, the Predators didn't actually fully form and label themselves as their own special unit until after the events of the Battle of Demeter. Before the events of the Battle of Demeter, a South African mercenary under the name of Cuban Blisk was working on the Frontier. Whilst not officially going under the name of the Apex Predators, Blisk provided a service to the highest bidder, offering combat intel and counter-insurgency services. His first contract was with the IMC, as they offered enough funds to make sure Blisk never had to work a day in his life ever again. After this first contract had been concluded, Blisk contemplated retiring from his mercenary job and moved to a tropical paradise within the Frontier, away from the conflict where he could just live his best life. However, the pay from that IMC contract was just too good. He couldn't just walk away from offers like that. The price was just way too high. Because of this, Blisk went back to the IMC as they had offered him a brand new offer, and with that money he could use it to build up his hardware, Titans, and make him one of the most idolized soldiers humanity had ever seen. When Blisk went back to the IMC to accept their offer, the Frontier War was in full effect. The Frontier Militia had set up an attack on the IMC, labeling it as the Fracture Operation, also known as the Refueling Raid. Blisk was brought into the higher-ups within the IMC, and Vice Admiral Marcus Graves assigned Blisk to be a direct advisor, as well as holding the provisional rank of Sergeant. Blisk worked on his own within the IMC. Whilst his mercenary business was most likely under the name of the Apex Predators, Blisk's military strength was simply under the title of the IMC, and only that. During the Battle of the Refueling Station in the Yuma system, Blisk operated as the troops' director, giving them updates on the battle at hand, where to attack next, and the overall mission progress. During this battle, however, a probe picked up life signs coming from a nearby sector of Bravo 217. Blisk was given charge of this expedition to find out who was there, what they wanted, and to make sure the Frontier Militia did not overwhelm them within this part of the frontier. It was here during the Battle of Troy where Cuban Blisk's true nature was shown to the militia, and why the Apex Predators would become known as a terrifying force to come against. After landing on the planet of Troy within Colony G21, Blisk went on to lead a team of IMC soldiers as well as a newly created deadly force known as the Spectres to try and capture the crashed ex-IMC controlled ship called the IMS Odyssey, which now housed the IMC traitor James McAllen. During this battle, Blisk was determined to assassinate McAllen and did anything to get him, massacring anyone in his way, from Frontier Militia soldiers to even innocent civilians and their villages. Blisk's expedition was remembered as an extremely dark day during the war, and thousands of lives had been brutally massacred by this mercenary leader, who had been given charge of these deadly Spectre forces. The Battle of Troy was ultimately won by the IMC, but the Frontier Militia were able to escape with James McAllen, meaning Blisk had failed in his task to assassinate this VIP target. Because of this failure to do the job he was hired to do, Blisk was dropped from commanding during the next few important battles within Angel City, Outpost 207 and Base Golden, as he was put back into the role of just gaining combat intel. After those battles, he was once again reinstated with commanding a small squadron during the Battle of Airbase Sierra. Here his job was to jump down into the tunnels beneath the base and kill the militia operative Sarah Briggs. Blisk was successful in the fact that he wounded Briggs, however this would not be the end of her, and because of that the Frontier Militia were able to destroy the airbase, meaning yet another failure for Blisk and his forces. The Battle of Demeter came quickly after, and once again Blisk was entrusted with dropping down into the planet and stopping the militia's forces from destroying the IMC base. Blisk's sole mission here was to track down McAllen, who had taken it upon himself to manually destroy the core of the base, taking the planet out and destroying the IMC's key jump point in the frontier. Blisk made it to the core, but it was too late. McAllen had beaten him to it and locked him out of the chamber. Unable to use his weapons due to the incredibly flammable gas surrounding the area, Blisk had to retreat back to the IMC ship, allowing McAllen to destroy Demeter and ultimately the IMC's war effort. Once again, Blisk had failed, but his loyalty to the IMC's cause was shown to their AI commander known as Spyglass. Blisk was promoted to commander within the IMC and was massively rewarded in terms of pay for his service during all of the battles. But Blisk was angry and disgusted that Graves, the man who had hired him as his advisor, had turned his back on the IMC after this battle and encouraged the Frontier Militia's attack on the Hammond Robotics Spectre production facility. Blisk didn't want to listen to anything Graves had to say regarding his departure and just wanted his death to come from his own hands. Blisk was loyal to his contracts and Graves had gone against everything he stood for. Blisk even stated to Spyglass that he would take this contract of killing Graves for free, as he was disgusted by the cowardice. After the battle within Hammond Robotics, the militia was victorious and the IMC looked to be on the back foot. Blisk, however, had been handsomely rewarded for his service, and it was time for him to bolster his mercenary forces to make sure he could not fail again. After the Battle of Demeter, Blisk retreated away from the IMC for a bit to recruit his new mercenaries and fully create the faction known as the Apex Predators. With the huge amount of funds at his disposal, only the best could join the Apex Predators, and with Blisk knowing what makes a good soldier, it would allow him to not only buy the most up-to-date and deadly Titans, but also the deadliest pilots in the system. 30-year-old Kane was the first, a ruthless mercenary with a terrifying mental state to match. Kane was known as being wild, unpredictable and brutal with any foe in front of him. Previously working as a narcotics dealer and abuser, Kane was regarded as an extremely dangerous pilot. Piloting a Scorched Titan, he would set fire to his enemies, rip pilots out of their Titan's chassis, and make sure no one could run from him. Donning a unique set of pilot armor seen only once during the events of the Frontier War, Kane would be able to dominate the battleground using his pure strength, unpredictability, using his hollow pilot equipment to confuse his foes. Just know if you come face to face with Kane, he will do anything to slaughter you in battle. Next up was Ash, a once extremely deadly pilot. Ash was pretty much killed in battle, leaving her body almost irreparable. Her mind, however, was able to be saved and was transferred to a robot body. Here she was able to keep her personality as well as her combat skills, but this time without worrying too much about bodily harm, as that could be easily replaced. Piloting a Ronin Titan, Ash sought to use her fast, noble speed to outmaneuver her enemies, dashing from side to side to get round the back and assassinating them. She is cold, heartless, and likes to toy with her enemies whilst wearing her emotionless death mask face, challenging them to war games to see what type of warrior they are and if they are a worthy foe for her. If you come face to face with Ash, expect a tough battle as she tries to put you off psychologically and outmaneuvers you with her phase shifting Titan. Richter is a brutal war-torn individual that always wants to prove that he is the best of the best. A deadly foe who seeks to use pure muscle to outdo his opponents. Sharing a lot of similarities to 21st century legend Arnold Schwarzenegger, Richter is the bulkiest of the Apex Predators, and that is shown within the equipment he uses. Utilizing a Tone class Titan, Richter will always use its tracking rockets to make sure you can't get the best of him, and he will always find you on the battleground. If he gets you, he won't hesitate to drop his weapons and use his or his Titan's fist to take you down. And if he does, he will show no real care for the person he has killed and will rummage through their body, hunting for valuables, and sometimes plays with the corpses of those he has just slaughtered, collecting trophies for his mantle. If you were to come into contact with Richter, he will most likely track you down like he was on a hunt and just use his pure muscles to take you out and play with your corpse. If you were to take out his Titan, he will go full kamikaze and activate his nuclear option, obliterating anyone nearby as well as himself, leaving nothing left. Taken to the skies to outmaneuver his foes is Viper, an extremely deadly pilot who utilizes speed more than anyone. Hiding behind his white and red helmet, Viper never reveals what he looks like, and apart from Ash, Viper is the only one in the Apex Predators to never show his face. A pilot that thrives in the air, Viper can take out countless ships in a matter of seconds, thanks to his incredible fast flying and pilot skills. Piloting a heavily customized North Star class Titan, Viper displays all of his victories on the front of his Titan to show his foe how successful he has been in his career, and to strike fear in them when they inevitably see him fly past them and take them out with his brutal laser. If you come face to face with Viper, it'll be far too late and you will be shot down from the air in a matter of minutes. Probably the most honourable pilot within the Apex Predators, but that certainly doesn't mean he is an easy target. Standing by Cuban Blisk's side as the second in command is the incredibly powerful and tactically smart pilot known as Sloane. Sloane is just as smart as her commander, knowing exactly how to get the edge in battle. She will direct the forces of the IMC soldiers she is put in charge of, and will make sure they are capable of winning those battles. She's not just tactically minded. Coming face to face with her, you will feel the full force of the Apex Predators. Piloting an Iron class Titan heavily customized with war paint, the mere sight of her Titan will scare those who wish to challenge her. Her Titan's strength is higher than any of those lower than her in the Predators, and you will need a ton of firepower to break through her shields as well as her thick armor. Her Titan also wields a phase shift like Ash's, meaning she can dart around the battleground within a matter of seconds, outmaneuvering them and making it almost impossible to get the upper hand within the battle. If you come face to face with Sloane, be prepared for the hardest battle of your life. She isn't the second in command of the Apex Predators for no reason. She is the toughest so far. Then topping the Predators is the man himself, Cuban Blisk. Blisk likes to make sure things are running well below him. He will make sure that the contracts he takes out are fulfilled to the best of their ability and will not accept failure. Whilst he is not as heartless as maybe Ash or Richter, he is extremely brutal to come against and will utilize everything at his disposal to get the job done. Piloting a heavily customized Legion class Titan, Blisk has the best of the best equipment and makes sure he shows off its Apex Predator colors and logo to the world. Whilst he isn't shown really being involved in the battles on the front lines as he sends the rest of his Predators to do the work, if he were to fight you in one-to-one combat, his years of experience as a mercenary will make it one of the toughest battles you will ever face. Blisk will never cave to pressure as he lives by the phrase, "You kill me, you're better. I kill you, I'm better." And to this day, that phrase has still shown that he is at the top of his game. Being at the top of the IMC and the leader of the Apex Predators, Cuban Blisk is no laughing matter. And if you were to see him coming for your village, know that you may not make it out alive. Together, these brutal pilots would be the IMC's most deadly weapon on the battleground, with a real drive to get the job done and get the money and trophies they deserve. Together, they are a force to be reckoned with, and they will be known throughout the universe as the deadly Apex Predators, the IMC's force to be reckoned with. With Cuban Blisk fully setting up his group of Apex Predators, it was clear to the IMC that they were going to be the best chance at winning this war for them. After the events of the Battle of Demeter and the Hammond Robotics raid, the IMC appointed Cuban Blisk and his Predators with one of the most crucial missions the war had ever seen. Here they would be tasked with patrolling Typhon, taking out the militia, as well as transporting the IMC's super weapon called the Ark, which would be turned into a fold weapon to destroy frontier planets and their moons. A job that would ultimately lead to the Frontier Militia being forced to surrender, meaning the war would be won for the IMC. Here they were contracted by General Marder and his Ares division, the ones responsible for finding the alien superweapon. During this time, the Apex Predators were also given charge of IMC infantry units, which consisted of the best the IMC had. The Predators split up throughout the system, each having their own roles and units supporting them. Kane would be assigned to the reclamation facility to take out the 9th Militia Fleet, who had started attacking the facility. Ash was responsible for overseeing the IMC training facility, allowing her to utilize all the different military troops and tools to try and use that to toy with any militia forces who find their way into the base. Richter was assigned to the communications site to coordinate the IMC defences, trying to force the militia out of hiding, utilising Spectres, and ultimately wipe them out of the area. Viper was assigned to the air to help escort the IMS Draconis carrying the Ark to the fold weapon. His goal was to make sure no Frontier militia got close to the Draconis, and if they did, he would take them out. And finally, Blisk and Sloan would work together to make sure the Ark got to its destination, commanding their IMC forces and working closely with General Marder, making sure they were always one step ahead of the militia. But unfortunately, the Apex Predators were outmaneuvered by just one lone pilot under the name of Jack Cooper and his Titan BT. Throwing everything at Cooper, the Predators were just outgunned by this newly made pilot and his incredibly smart and tactically minded Titan, who would do anything to uphold the mission. Utilising Kane's radio, this also made Cooper's life easier by tracking down the Apex Predators and being one step ahead of them. After wiping out Kane, Ash, Richter and Viper, only Sloan and Blisk were left alive. After capturing Cooper and BT to get back the stolen Ark, Blisk and Sloan showed they weren't messing around, completely obliterating BT's chassis. But stupidly, Blisk and Sloan left Cooper alive, meaning he was able to recover BT's data chip and utilise it within a new Legion class Titan chassis. With Cooper now back on the offensive with the new and improved BT, it was time to face them one-on-one. Sloan was up and it was down to her to finish the job. But once again, Cooper and BT's determination to uphold the mission meant they were able to outgun her and kill her in the process, meaning they could stop the fold weapon from firing. Cuban Bliss during this was able to avoid any conflict with Cooper and left the room while Sloan tried to deal with them. But during that conflict and after, Bliss was impressed by Cooper's piloting skills, and whilst he was semi-conscious after defeating Sloan, Bliss made sure to offer him the chance of becoming an Apex Predator himself after the war was over, something that is yet to be followed up by Jack Cooper. Whilst the fold weapon was ultimately destroyed by the Frontier Militia and the IMC's war effort had almost fallen to pieces, Blisk had completed his contract with General Marder to escort the Ark weapon and walked away from this conflict with his pockets filled with money from the IMC, not having to share it with any of his other Predators. Blisk would eventually retreat away from the planet and not involve himself anymore with the Frontier War. Now without his Apex Predators surrounding him and with Marder's ultimate plan ruined, he was on his own, unsuccessful but extremely rich. It was now time for a new life and to rebuild the Apex Predators all over again. After the war had finished, both the Frontier Militia and the IMC returned back to their core planets to rebuild from the war that killed millions and destroyed homes and cities. Cuban Blisk, now without his other Predators, retreated to an isolated world within the Frontier on the planet called the Outlands. Here he set up some war games called the Apex Games, where mercenaries and anyone who wanted to test their battleground skills would compete against each other until one squad is left, proving to the rest that they were the best. Blisk sent out invitations all over the core worlds and the Frontier planets, gaining a big response from incredibly powerful and unique legends. Whilst it seems like Blisk is just having a bit of fun now he is in somewhat retirement away from the responsibilities of the IMC and the Frontier War, the imagery on the battlegrounds and the whole nature of the games is very fitting of what would have been his way of recruiting the very best pilots in all of the systems. Maybe these legends will in fact be the next Apex Predators he can use for mercenary jobs for whoever pays the most, or maybe they are simply there for Blisk's amusement. Either way, the Apex Predators may not exist fully anymore, but the Apex Legends are certainly making headlines, and maybe one day Jack Cooper will accept Blisk's offer of joining the Predators, and we will see him face off against the other combatants. But Blisk isn't the only one left from the Predators. In fact, after her destruction caused by Cooper in the Frontier War, Ash's head was rebuilt once again, with just some of her memory left. After being found by Pathfinder and shown around his fellow legends, Ash was able to remember who she was and what happened to some extent. Blisk would get word of this and meet up with Ash. After making sure she understood that he wasn't the one who killed her, the two got speaking again and went on to get back to business. With Ash back and the Apex legends involved within the Apex games, it's pretty clear that Blisk will have his mercenary unit back to full strength once again. But who out of these warriors will be part of this deadly faction? We will have to see. Ultimately, that's down to the Apex games. And that's the sort of vague lore behind the Apex Predators, one of the coolest factions if you ask me. Personally, I really love Blisk. I think he is a fantastic character and I love their Titan designs. I really hope we get to see them in action again, maybe with some of the Apex legends joining their ranks, but we will have to see in the long run. Thank you all for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please make sure to give it a like, sub to the channel if you haven't already, and maybe share the video around. If you want to support this channel further, I'll leave my Discord, Twitch and Twitter links in the description, as well as my Patreon and YouTube membership links. And speaking of, I want to thank my patrons really quick. Big thanks to Duquesne23, our big fish, our now 4 sharks, JP, Dylan, Connor, and our new shark, the AVIP man, as well as our 4 huge megalodons, Sinus, Morgan Brazier, JJD896, and Whale Such Gaming. Thank you all so much for your support, and big thanks to our 2 YouTube channel members, Jambu and Ximurement X. Big thanks to you guys. I will also be adding a new section here if anyone wants to become a subscriber on Twitch, as we just hit affiliate status. So if you want your name here, then why not become a Twitch subscriber or leave a donation at some point during the stream to have your name show up right here. But that is all for now. Thanks so much once again for watching, and I shall see you all in the next one. Cheers.